Welcome to Mystery Tales. I'm your host, Alexander. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the world of intrigue and deduction with a brand new Hercule Poirot mystery, crafted in the timeless style of Agatha Christie. Settle in, dear listeners, perhaps with a cup of tea or under a cozy blanket, as we unravel Corpse at the Mirador Terrace. This is a long tale, perfect for those relaxing evenings, clocking in at over 90 minutes of storytelling. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more classic whodunits. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from tonight? London, the countryside, or somewhere far more exotic? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Arrival at Mirador Terrace. The autumn of 1926 draped the Devonshire coast in a golden haze, where the rugged cliffs met the restless churn of the English Channel. A sleek black motor car purred along the serpentine drive, its tyres crunching against the gravel as it climbed toward Mirador Terrace. The estate was a monument to extravagance, a sprawling villa of gleaming white stone and terracotta tiles. Its cascading terraces carved into the cliffside like steps descending to the sea. Built by the late Lord Harrington as a legacy for his son Sir Reginald, it stood as a beacon of wealth amid the wild coastal landscape. The air was sharp with the tang of salt, carried on a breeze that whispered secrets, while distant gulls cried mournfully against the backdrop of crashing waves. In the passenger seat, Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with a penchant for order and an immaculate moustache, adjusted his pristine silk tie. His sharp eyes, gleaming with the curiosity of a mind never at rest, surveyed the approaching estate. Beside him, Captain Arthur Hastings, his loyal friend and chronicler, gripped the steering wheel with the easy confidence of an Englishman at home in the countryside. Hastings's ruddy cheeks glowed with the anticipation of a weekend among the elite, though Poirot suspected more than mere leisure awaited. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice soft but precise, "one does not summon Hercule Poirot to a grand estate for the mere pleasure of sea air and scones. Non, there is always something more. A puzzle, perhaps, lurking beneath the surface." Hastings chuckled, his eyes fixed on the winding road. "Oh, come now, Poirot. You're always sniffing out mysteries where there are none. Sir Reginald is an old friend from my club in London, a jolly good chap. It's just a weekend gathering. Good food, fine wine, perhaps a spot of shooting on the moors. Nothing sinister about it." Poirot's lips twitched into a knowing smile. "We shall see, Hastings. The little grey cells, they are already stirring." As the motor car rounded the final bend, Mirador Terrace came into full view, its grandeur almost overwhelming. The villa's facade was adorned with ivy that clung like an emerald shroud, and its tall windows reflected the fading sunlight like mirrors. The terraces, for which the estate was named, were a marvel. 3 levels of manicured gardens and stone balustrades, each offering a breathtaking view of the Channel. At the highest point stood the Mirador itself, a glass-enclosed balcony that seemed to float above the cliffs. A perfect vantage point for stargazing, or, as Poirot suspected, observing secrets. The car halted before the grand entrance, where a towering oak door was flanked by marble urns overflowing with late-blooming roses. Mr. Jenkins, the butler, awaited them, a gaunt figure with a face like weathered oak, his posture rigid as a sentinel. His grey eyes assessed the newcomers with a flicker of curiosity, though his expression remained impassive. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings," he intoned, his voice as crisp as the autumn air. "Sir Reginald awaits you in the drawing-room. Allow me to take your coats." They stepped into a foyer that exuded opulence. marble floors polished to a mirror sheen, a crystal chandelier casting prismatic light, and walls adorned with oil paintings of stern-faced Harrington ancestors. The faint scent of lavender polish mingled with the distant aroma of roasting pheasant from the kitchens, promising a feast to come. Poirot's sharp gaze darted to every detail, the gleam of a silver candelabra, the slight scuff on a Persian rug, each a potential clue in a game not yet revealed. Sir Reginald Harrington himself greeted them in the drawing-room, a cavernous space with velvet drapes and a roaring fire. A robust man in his early 50s, he had the ruddy complexion of one who enjoyed both cigars and the outdoors. His booming voice filled the room as he clapped Hastings on the shoulder. "Poirot! Hastings! Delighted you could make it. The terrace is at its finest this time of year. Nothing like the sea to invigorate the soul, eh?" "Indeed, Sir Reginald," Poirot replied, bowing slightly. "It is a pleasure to behold such symmetry in architecture and hospitality." Lady Evelyn Harrington, Sir Reginald's wife, rose from a plush armchair to greet them, a vision of elegance in a silk gown of midnight blue. Her pearl necklace caught the firelight, though her pale blue eyes held a flicker of unease, like a storm cloud on a clear day. "Welcome, gentlemen," she said, her voice smooth but tinged with restraint. "We've quite the assembly this weekend. I do hope you'll find it diverting." The drawing-room was already alive with the hum of conversation, as the other guests mingled over tea served on delicate porcelain. Poirot's keen observation catalogued each figure, sensing the undercurrents beneath their polished exteriors. Mr. Victor Lang, Sir Reginald's business partner in a lucrative shipping venture, was a lean man with sharp features and a calculating gaze that seemed to weigh every word. He stood by the fireplace, discussing maritime routes with an intensity that belied the casual setting. Miss Amelia Harrington, Sir Reginald's niece, was a bright young thing of 25, her bobbed hair and emerald green dress marking her as a modern woman of the Jazz Age. She laughed too loudly at Hastings's anecdotes, her eyes darting to her uncle with a hint of defiance. Dr. Elena Voss, a German physician and old family acquaintance, sat apart, her stern demeanour and severe bun suggesting a disciplined mind, though her cryptic remarks about the war hinted at a shadowed past. In the corner, Mr. Thomas Reed, the estate's gardener, stood awkwardly in his best suit, invited as a trusted servant for his decades of service. His rough hands and sullen expression spoke of a man out of place among the elite, his gaze fixed on Sir Reginald with barely concealed resentment. And then there was Miss Clara Benson, the young housemaid, flitting about with a silver tray of tea-cakes. Her youthful face was serene, but Poirot caught the nervous tremble of her hands as she served, and the furtive glance she exchanged with Reed. As tea was poured, Sir Reginald held court, his voice carrying over the clink of cups. "Gentlemen, ladies, I've a treat to unveil tonight," he announced, gesturing to Lady Evelyn. "My dear, show them your new acquisition." Lady Evelyn hesitated, then lifted the velvet cloth from a small box on the side table, revealing a diamond necklace that sparkled like captured starlight. Gasps rippled through the room. "Fetched it from Antwerp," Sir Reginald boasted. "Priceless, I tell you, a fitting gift for my Evelyn." But Poirot's little grey cells buzzed. He noted the tensions that surfaced like ripples on a pond. Lang's heated whisper to Sir Reginald about business discrepancies. Amelia's sharp comment about the family fortune being hoarded by old men. Dr. Voss's cold allusion to wartime debts unpaid. Reed's muttered complaint about a promised raise, and Clara's fleeting blush as Sir Reginald's hand brushed hers while taking a tea cake. The afternoon waned, and the group was invited to the Mirador Terrace for aperitifs. The glass-enclosed balcony glowed under the setting sun, its panoramic views stretching to the horizon where sea met sky. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, but Poirot remained alert, sensing the gathering storm. "Hastings," he murmured, "observe the players in this little drama. Each has a motive, each a secret. The stage is set, mon ami, for something most unfortunate." As the first stars appeared, the guests toasted to the beauty of Mirador Terrace, unaware that tragedy lurked just beyond the horizon. Word count 2000. Narrator, soft wave sounds in background. And so, the curtain rises on our tale. Stay with me, dear listeners, for the shadows are deepening. What secrets do you think lie hidden at Mirador Terrace? Share in the comments below, and let's continue this journey together. Chapter 2. The Gathering Storm. The grand dining hall of Mirador Terrace gleamed under the soft glow of candlelight, its long mahogany table set with crystal goblets and silver cutlery that sparkled like stars against the polished wood. The French doors stood ajar, admitting a cool sea breeze that carried the faint tang of salt and the distant rhythm of waves crashing against the Devonshire cliffs below. The aroma of roasted pheasant, glazed with rosemary and thyme, mingled with the delicate scent of freshly baked bread, promising a feast worthy of the estate's opulence. It was the first evening of the weekend gathering, and the air buzzed with the forced gaiety of a party teetering on the edge of discord. Sir Reginald Harrington presided at the head of the table, his robust frame filling the high-backed chair like a king on his throne. His ruddy cheeks glowed in the candlelight, and his booming laugh echoed as he raised a glass of claret, the red wine catching the light like liquid rubies. "To Mirador Terrace," he declared, his voice resonating with pride, "and to good company, fine food, and the promise of a splendid weekend." The guests seated around the table in their evening finery raised their glasses in a chorus of murmurs, though the smiles were strained, the eyes watchful. Hercule Poirot, seated to Sir Reginald's right, sipped his wine with measured restraint, his sharp gaze darting from face to face, cataloguing every nuance. His immaculate moustache twitched as he sensed the undercurrents swirling beneath the surface, tensions as palpable as the sea breeze. Captain Hastings, to Poirot's left, was in high spirits, his boyish enthusiasm undimmed by the subtle frictions. "Jolly good toast, Sir Reginald," he said, clinking glasses with Amelia Harrington, who sat across from him. Lady Evelyn Harrington, at the opposite end of the table, toyed with her diamond necklace, the dazzling Antwerp acquisition unveiled earlier that day. The gems caught the candlelight, casting fleeting prisms across her silk gown, but her delicate fingers trembled slightly, betraying a nervousness that Poirot noted with interest. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice smooth but tinged with unease, "your reputation precedes you. That affair on the Orient Express, quite remarkable. We're honoured to have such a mind among us." Poirot inclined his head, his smile polite but enigmatic. "Madame, it is the little grey cells that do the work. They are always attentive." The conversation turned lively, but the cracks in the facade of civility widened with each exchange. Victor Lang, Sir Reginald's business partner, leaned forward, his sharp features taut with barely concealed agitation. "Reginald, we must discuss the merger," he said, his voice low but insistent. "Your decisions affect the entire company. Delaying only risks our profits." Lady Evelyn's eyes flashed with irritation. "Victor, darling, must we talk business at dinner? Surely there's a time and place." Lang's lips tightened, but he pressed on. Evelyn, it's no secret Reginald's choices have been questionable. That Antwerp deal cost a fortune. Money we don't have to spare. Sir Reginald's laugh was a thunderclap. Nonsense, Victor. The necklace is an investment, like this estate. You worry too much. Amelia Harrington, her bobbed hair gleaming under the chandelier, rolled her eyes with the impatience of youth. Uncle, you're impossible, she said, her tone sharp but playful. The world is changing. Women like me deserve a say in the family fortune, not just to be paraded in pretty dresses. Her words drew a murmur of surprise from the table. Dr. Elena Voss, the German physician seated beside her, sipped her wine with a cold smile. Fortune's built on blood, Miss Harrington, she said, her accent clipped. Your uncle's wealth, much of it from wartime dealings, is distasteful, shall we say. Some of us remember those years too well. The table fell silent for a moment, the weight of her words hanging like a storm cloud. Poirot's eyes narrowed, noting the flicker of anger in Sir Reginald's face, quickly masked by a forced chuckle. Elena, always so serious, he said. The war's over. Let's not dredge up old ghosts. Thomas Reed, the gardener, sat uncomfortably at the far end of the table, an unusual inclusion among the elite guests. His rough hands gripped his fork awkwardly, and his sullen gaze fixed on Sir Reginald. Sir, he said gruffly, about that raise you promised. Been years, and I'm still scraping by. Sir Reginald waved a dismissive hand. Later, Reed. Tonight's for enjoyment. Clara Benson, the young housemaid, moved silently around the table, refilling glasses with a practised grace. Her youthful face was serene, but Poirot caught the fleeting glance she exchanged with Reed, a look that spoke of secrets shared in shadows. As she leaned to serve Sir Reginald, his hand brushed hers, lingering a fraction too long, and her cheeks flushed crimson before she hurried away. The meal progressed through courses, velouté soup, poached salmon, and now the pheasant. But the tensions only deepened. Amelia whispered to Hastings about her dreams of studying abroad, her voice tinged with frustration at her uncle's control over her trust fund. Lang and Lady Evelyn exchanged heated glances, their conversation shifting to hushed tones that Poirot strained to overhear. Dr. Voss's cryptic remarks about debts unpaid drew a sharp look from Sir Reginald, while Reed's brooding silence seemed to radiate resentment. As dessert, a decadent chocolate soufflé was served. Sir Reginald stood, his presence commanding the room. Enough of this squabbling, he declared. Let's adjourn to the Mirador Terrace for cigars and brandy. The night is young, and the stars over the channel are a sight to behold. He paused, his eyes locking with Poirot's. Monsieur Poirot, a word in my study first, a private matter. The guests murmured their assent, rising from the table. Poirot followed Sir Reginald down a corridor lined with ancestral portraits, their stern faces watching like silent sentinels. The study was a sanctuary of oak panels and leather-bound books, its massive desk overlooking the cliffs through a tall latched window. A heavy oak door, equipped with a sturdy bolt, ensured privacy. The faint scent of cigar smoke lingered, mingling with the musty aroma of old paper. Sir Reginald closed the door and bolted it, his jovial demeanour fading. Poirot, he said, his voice low, I fear for my life. I've received anonymous letters, threats. Someone in this house wants me dead. Poirot's eyes gleamed with interest. Letters, you say? May I see them? Sir Reginald hesitated, then unlocked a drawer and produced a small bundle of notes, scrawled in jagged ink. Death awaits you, read one. Your greed will be your end, said another. Poirot's fingers traced the paper, his mind already whirring. Before he could probe further, a shout echoed from the hall. Jenkins, the butler, calling for Sir Reginald. "Sir, the guests are assembling on the terrace." Sir Reginald sighed. "We'll discuss this later, Poirot. For now, join the others, but keep your eyes open." They returned to the corridor, Sir Reginald locking the study door behind them. The guests were already gathering on the Mirador Terrace, the glass dome glowing under the starlit sky. Laughter and the clink of brandy glasses filled the air. But Poirot's little grey cells were alight with suspicion. The night had deepened, and the storm he had sensed was no longer just a metaphor. Somewhere in the shadows of Mirador Terrace, a tragedy was brewing, its threads already tightening around the unsuspecting guests. Chapter 3. The Crime Discovered. The Mirador Terrace at Mirador Terrace was a jewel under the velvet cloak of night, its glass dome arching like a crystal bubble above the churning English Channel. Stars twinkled overhead, reflected in the polished panes, while the sea below roared its eternal symphony against the cliffs, a restless backdrop to the gathering of souls within. The air was crisp, laced with the brine of the ocean and the faint aroma of fine Cuban cigars that Sir Reginald had distributed with his usual generosity. Brandy glasses clinked softly, and laughter, though edged with the evening's earlier tensions, attempted to reclaim the space. The guests had assembled here after dinner, drawn by the promise of starlit views and post-prandial relaxation. Captain Hastings, ever the sociable Englishman, stood near the balustrade with Miss Amelia Harrington, pointing out constellations with boyish enthusiasm. "See there, Miss Harrington, that's Orion the Hunter. Reminds me of my days in the war, navigating by the stars." Amelia, her bobbed hair catching the moonlight, laughed lightly, though her eyes held a shadow of discontent. "Call me Amelia, Captain. And yes, the stars are freeing, aren't they? Unlike the chains of family expectations." She glanced toward her uncle's empty chair, her fingers twisting the stem of her glass. Lady Evelyn Harrington strolled arm in arm with Mr. Victor Lang along the terrace's edge, their heads close in whispered conversation. The diamond necklace gleamed at her throat, a beacon of opulence, but her posture was rigid, her smiles forced. "Victor, please," she murmured, "not here. Reginald will return any moment." Lang's sharp features were etched with frustration, his voice a low hiss. "Evelyn, we can't ignore it. His stubbornness with the business, it's ruining us." Dr. Elena Voss sat apart on a wrought-iron bench, her stern face illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lantern. She nursed a small glass of schnapps, her eyes distant, lost in memories evoked by the sea's vastness. Thomas Reed, the gardener, hovered awkwardly near the French doors leading back to the house, his ill-fitting suit a stark contrast to the elegance around him. He puffed on a pipe, his sullen gaze flicking toward the study window below. Clara Benson, the housemaid, moved gracefully among the group, offering refills from a silver tray. Her youthful cheeks were flushed from the warmth inside, but her eyes darted nervously, especially when near Reed. Poirot, the diminutive Belgian with his impeccable suit and waxed moustache, paced the perimeter of the Mirador like a sentinel. He observed everything, the subtle alliances, the fleeting glances, the unspoken grudges. "Hastings, mon ami," he said quietly, joining his friend, "the atmosphere here is charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. Sir Reginald's absence, it is prolonged." Hastings nodded, though cheerfully. "He's probably deep in conversation with Jenkins about the wine cellar, or perhaps showing off his collection of rare books in the study." But Poirot's little grey cells were uneasy. The study, directly below the Mirador and accessible via a side door, had been locked when Sir Reginald and Poirot had briefly conferred there earlier. The threatening letters weighed on Poirot's mind, the jagged scrawl, the veiled accusations of greed. He glanced at his pocket watch. Nearly an hour had passed since dinner's end. The conversation flowed in fits and starts. Amelia regaled Hastings with tales of London parties, her voice rising in defiance of her uncle's conservative ways. "He thinks a woman's place is in the drawing-room, Captain, but I want more travel, independence." Lang and Lady Evelyn's whispers grew more animated, her hand clutching his arm as if for support. Dr. Voss interjected occasionally with dry comments on the futility of wealth, her German accent cutting through the night like a scalpel. Reed grunted responses when addressed, his pipe smoke curling lazily. Clara served silently, but Poirot noted her tremor when passing near Lady Evelyn. Jealousy, perhaps, over the necklace, or something deeper. Suddenly, the night shattered. A sharp crack echoed from below. A gunshot, unmistakable in its violence, reverberating off the cliffs and through the glass dome. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed, his body tensing like a coiled spring. Chaos erupted. Glasses dropped, shattering on the stone floor. Lady Evelyn screamed, her hands flying to her mouth. "Reginald!" Hastings bolted toward the doors. "That came from the study." The group surged as one, pouring down the short flight of stairs to the corridor below. Jenkins, the butler, appeared as if summoned by the noise, his gaunt face pale. "Sir Reginald! He's in the study!" The study door loomed before them, heavy oak with its sturdy bolt. Lang pounded on it. "Reginald, open up!" No response, only the distant crash of waves. Reed, with his burly strength, shouldered the door, but it held firm, bolted from the inside. "It's locked tight, sir." Poirot's voice cut through the panic, calm and authoritative. "The windows, check them." Hastings and Lang rushed to the tall window overlooking the cliffs, latched securely from within. No sign of disturbance, no broken glass. The room was sealed, door bolted, windows fastened, no chimney wide enough for escape, no secret passages that Poirot could discern from his earlier visit. "Force it!" Lady Evelyn cried, her voice breaking. Jenkins fetched a crowbar from the hall closet, and with Reed's help, they pried at the door. Wood splintered, the bolt gave way with a groan, and the door swung open. The scene inside was a tableau of horror. Sir Reginald Harrington lay slumped over his massive desk, a revolver clutched in his right hand. A neat bullet wound at his temple, oozing blood onto scattered papers. The acrid smell of gunpowder hung in the air, mingling with the metallic tang of blood. His eyes stared sightlessly at the ceiling, his face frozen in a mask of surprise. Or was it pain? Lady Evelyn collapsed against Lang, sobbing uncontrollably. "Reginald, no!" Amelia stood frozen in the doorway, her hand over her mouth. Dr. Voss pushed forward, her physician's instincts kicking in. She checked for a pulse, then shook her head grimly. "He's gone. Instantaneous." Poirot knelt beside the body, his gloved hands careful not to disturb the scene. The pistol was Sir Reginald's own, from the drawer Poirot had seen earlier. One bullet fired, powder residue on the dead man's hand. But the angle, the wound was on the right temple, yet Sir Reginald was left-handed, as Poirot recalled from dinner. And the note, hastily scrawled on the desk blotter, "I can't go on, forgive me." "Suicide?" Hastings whispered, aghast. Poirot rose, his eyes blazing. "No, Hastings, this is murder! An impossible crime, a locked room sealed from within. Yet the killer has vanished like smoke." The group recoiled, murmurs rippling. Inspector Graves, the local constable, a portly man with a moustache rivaling Poirot's but lacking its finesse, was summoned by telephone. Arrived within the hour, his uniform rumpled from the hasty drive, lantern in hand. "Right then," he blustered, surveying the room. "Looks cut and dry. Suicide. Note says it all. I can't go on. Debts, perhaps, or family troubles." But Poirot shook his head vehemently. "Inspector, observe, the door bolted from inside, windows latched, no other exit. Yet the powder burns are inconsistent, the angle wrong for self-infliction. And this note, the handwriting wavers, as if forged under duress." Graves scratched his head. "Well, Mr. Poirot, your reputation's known, but facts are facts." As the night wore on, shock gave way to suspicion. The guests gathered in the drawing-room under Graves's watchful eye, alibis tentatively probed. All claimed to be on the terrace when the shot rang out, witnessed by each other. Yet motives surfaced like ghosts. Lady Evelyn, poised to inherit the estate and its burdens. Lang, entangled in business woes and whispers of an affair. Amelia, chafing under her uncle's control of her fortune. Dr. Voss, harbouring grudges from wartime profiteering that ruined her family. Reed, dismissed that very morning for suspected theft. Clara, confessing in tears to a secret liaison with Sir Reginald, promising escape. Poirot paced, his mind a whirlwind. The impossible had occurred under the Mirador's starry gaze, and the little grey cells demanded answers. Chapter 4. The investigation begins. Dawn broke over Mirador Terrace, painting the cliffs in hues of gold and rose, though the beauty was marred by the shadow of death. The grand villa, perched above the English Channel, seemed to hold its breath as the events of the previous night settled like dust after a storm. Sir Reginald Harrington's body had been removed from the study by Inspector Graves's men, but the room remained cordoned off. Its heavy oak door now splintered from being forced open. The air was thick with suspicion. The guests confined to the estate as the local constable bumbled through preliminary inquiries. Yet it was Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian with his piercing eyes and impeccable moustache, who took unofficial charge, his reputation granting him authority that Graves could not contest. "Inspector," Poirot said, standing in the drawing-room where the guests had gathered, "this is no suicide. The little grey cells, they protest. A murder so cleverly disguised as self-destruction, in a room locked from within. It demands precision, method, order. We shall unravel it." Graves, a portly man with a walrus-like moustache, adjusted his cap sceptically. "Mr. Poirot, I've telegraphed Scotland Yard, but it'll be hours before they send anyone. If you're so sure, what's your plan?" Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "To observe, to question, to listen. The truth lies in the details, mon ami." The drawing-room was a study in contrasts. Velvet drapes and polished mahogany clashed with the strained faces of the assembled suspects. The hue of fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows, while the sea's restless rhythm echoed through the open windows. Poirot began his interrogations, seating each guest in turn on a plush armchair, while the others waited, their nerves fraying like old rope. Captain Hastings stood by, taking notes with the diligence of a schoolboy, though his brow furrowed at the mounting complexities. First was Lady Evelyn Harrington, her elegant features hidden behind a black lace veil, her hands twisting a handkerchief. "Monsieur Poirot," she began, her voice trembling, "Reginald and I had our disagreements, yes, money, always money, the estate's upkeep, that wretched necklace, but I loved him. I was on the Mirador Terrace when the shot rang out, with Victor." Poirot's eyes narrowed. Madame, your necklace, such a treasure. Did Sir Reginald mention enemies? Or those threatening letters? She hesitated, her fingers tightening. He spoke of them vaguely. Business rivals, perhaps. I thought it bluster. Next came Victor Lang, Sir Reginald's business partner. His sharp features taut as he lit a cigarette with unsteady hands. Reginald was a fool with money, he said bluntly. That Antwerp deal, the necklace, the risky mergers, it bled our company dry. I argued with him, yes, but murder? Preposterous. I was with Evelyn on the terrace, as she said. Poirot leaned forward. Monsieur Lang, your financial troubles, did they not give you motive? A business free of Sir Reginald's control, perhaps? Lang's eyes flashed. I'm no saint, but I'm no killer. Check my accounts if you must. Miss Amelia Harrington, the fiery niece, sat with crossed arms, her bobbed hair swinging as she spoke. Uncle was a tyrant, she declared. He controlled my trust fund, refused to let me study abroad. I was angry, furious even, but I didn't shoot him. I was with Captain Hastings, talking stars. Hastings nodded eagerly. Quite right, Poirot. Amelia was with me the whole time. Dr. Elena Voss, the German physician, maintained her stern composure, her hands folded tightly. Sir Reginald profited from my family's ruin during the war, she said, her accent clipped. His shipping contracts supplied arms, while my brother starved in a camp. I despised him, yes, but I was on the terrace, smoking alone. Poirot tilted his head. Alone, Frau Voss? Yet no one saw you leave the group. Curious. Thomas Reed, the gardener, slumped in the chair, his rough hands fidgeting. He sacked me yesterday, he growled. Said I stole tools, lies. Been loyal 20 years, and he tosses me out. I was in the garden shed when the shot came, checking inventory. And you, Monsieur Reed, had access to the estate's keys? Poirot pressed. Reed's jaw tightened. Some, not the studies. Finally, Clara Benson, the housemaid, sat trembling, her youthful face pale. Sir Reginald, he was kind to me. She whispered, promised to help me start anew, maybe after leaving Lady Evelyn. I was serving drinks on the terrace. Everyone saw me. Poirot's gaze softened, but only slightly. Mademoiselle, your loyalty to him, perhaps it was more than professional. Her cheeks flushed, and she looked away. The alibis, on the surface held, all claimed to be on the Mirador Terrace, corroborated by others when the fatal shot echoed. Yet Poirot's mind whirred. He returned to the study, now lit by grey morning light filtering through the latched windows. The desk bore traces of blood, now dried, and the revolver lay where it had fallen, Sir Reginald's initials etched on its handle. One bullet missing from its chamber, powder residue on his hand. But the angle, Poirot noted again, was wrong for a left-handed man. The forged note, I can't go on, lay crumpled, its ink smudged as if written in haste. A faint footprint caught his eye, pressed into the plush carpet near the desk. Too small for a man's boot, it suggested a woman's shoe, perhaps size 5. Hastings? Poirot murmured. This footprint, it is a clue or a distraction. Hastings scratched his head. Could be anyone's, Poirot. Lady Evelyn, Amelia, Clara, even Dr. Voss. Poirot's search of the study deepened. In a locked drawer, forced open by Graves, he found more anonymous letters, their jagged scrawl matching those Sir Reginald had shown him. Your greed will bury you, one read. Another, the cliffs await. The threats were real, but their author elusive. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows. Poirot tested each latch. Secure, no signs of tampering. The door's bolt, though broken now, had been intact before they forced entry. The room was a fortress, yet a murderer had struck and vanished. Back in the drawing room, Poirot questioned Jenkins the butler, whose gaunt face betrayed exhaustion. "Mr. Jenkins, you heard the shot. Where were you?" "In the pantry, sir, preparing the brandy tray. I came running when I heard the commotion." Poirot nodded, filing the detail away. He turned to the group, his voice calm but commanding. "Mes amis, someone here lies. The locked room is not impenetrable to the mind that seeks truth. The little grey cells, they will find the answer." Suspicion swirled like the morning mist over the cliffs. Lady Evelyn's nervous glances at Lang suggested more than friendship. Amelia's defiance hinted at desperation for freedom. Dr. Voss's cold detachment masked a simmering grudge. Reed's dismissal fueled anger, and Clara's tears spoke of a dangerous attachment. Even Jenkins, ever present yet unnoticed, could not be dismissed. As the morning wore on, the guests dispersed to their rooms, forbidden to leave the estate. Poirot stood alone on the Mirador Terrace, gazing at the sea, his mind a storm of possibilities. "Hastings," he said as his friend joined him. "The red herrings are many, the clues subtle. The footprint, the letters, the alibis. They weave a tapestry, but one thread is false." Hastings frowned. "You think someone's framing another, or covering their tracks?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Both, perhaps. The murderer is clever, but not cleverer than Hercule Poirot." Chapter 5. Clues and red herrings. The sun climbed higher over Mirador Terrace, its rays piercing the morning mist that clung to the Devonshire cliffs. But the warmth did little to dispel the chill of suspicion that had settled over the estate. The grand villa, with its white stone facade and terracotta terraces, stood as a silent witness to the previous night's tragedy. Sir Reginald Harrington's murder in the locked study had transformed the opulent retreat into a labyrinth of secrets. And Hercule Poirot, with his meticulous mind and waxed moustache, was determined to navigate it. The guests confined to the estate by Inspector Graves's orders moved like ghosts through the halls, their eyes wary, their words guarded. Poirot, accompanied by Captain Hastings, prowled the grounds like a cat stalking its prey, his sharp gaze missing nothing. The investigation had shifted from interrogations to a hunt for physical evidence, and the Belgian detective's little grey cells buzzed with possibilities. "Hastings, mon ami," he said, pausing by the manicured rose garden below the Mirador Terrace. "The truth is like a rose, beautiful but hidden among thorns. We must seek the clues, but beware the red herrings that prick." Hastings, his notebook tucked under his arm, nodded eagerly. "Right, Poirot. But with everyone claiming to be on the terrace during the shot, where do we start?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "We start with what does not fit. The locked room, the footprint, the forged note, these are the threads we pull." Their first discovery came in the garden, where a gravel path wound toward the cliff's edge. Nestled among the roses, half buried under a thorny bush, Poirot spotted a silk glove, delicate, cream-coloured, and unmistakably Lady Evelyn's, monogrammed with her initials. A faint stain of gun oil marred its surface, glinting in the sunlight. "Voilà," Poirot murmured, holding it aloft with his handkerchief. "A clue, or a plant?" Hastings frowned. Lady Evelyn's? But she was on the terrace with Lang. Could she have slipped away? Poirot tucked the glove into a paper envelope. Perhaps Hastings, or perhaps someone wishes us to think so. Next, they searched the guest quarters, with Inspector Graves's reluctant permission. In Victor Lang's room, tucked beneath a stack of financial ledgers in a leather valise, Poirot found a damning document. A ledger showing Sir Reginald's embezzlement from their shipping company, with Lang's angry annotations scrawled in the margins. £300,000, Poirot read aloud, his voice low. A motive most compelling, non? Lang, summoned to explain, turned ashen. I found those discrepancies weeks ago, he stammered. Reginald was skimming profits. I confronted him, yes, but I didn't kill him. Those ledgers were in my room to prepare for a board meeting. Poirot's gaze was unyielding. Yet you did not mention this last night, Monsieur Lang. In Amelia Harrington's room, a leather-bound diary lay hidden beneath her mattress. Its pages, written in her bold script, revealed plans to elope with a mysterious suitor in London, contingent on securing her trust fund. Uncle threatens to cut me off, one entry read. I'll do anything to escape this gilded cage. Poirot closed the diary thoughtfully. Desperation, Hastings. It drives the young to reckless acts. Dr. Elena Voss's quarters yielded a more curious find. A small glass vial of cyanide, tucked in a medical bag alongside surgical tools. When questioned, Voss's stern face remained impassive. A red herring, Monsieur Poirot, she said coolly. It's for treating certain conditions, perfectly legal for a physician. I was on the terrace, as I told you. Poirot's eyebrow arched. Yet cyanide is a poison most convenient for murder, Frau Voss. The gardener, Thomas Reed, was found in his shed near the estate's rear gate, surrounded by tools and sacks of fertilizer. Among them, Poirot discovered a duplicate key to the study door, its brass surface polished as if recently handled. Reed's face darkened when confronted. That's an old spare, he growled. Haven't used it in years. Sir Reginald kept the only working key. And yet, Poirot countered, you were dismissed for theft. A key to the study, most useful for revenge, no? Clara Benson's tiny room in the servants' quarters held a locket, hidden in a drawer beneath a pile of linens. Inside was a photograph of Sir Reginald, his face smiling, with a lock of his hair tucked beside it. When Poirot presented it, Clara's eyes filled with tears. He gave it to me, she whispered, said he'd take care of me. I loved him, but I didn't kill him. Poirot's expression softened, but his mind remained sharp. Love, mademoiselle, can be a motive as powerful as hate. Back in the study, Poirot examined the windows again. Their latches secure, but one hinge slightly loose, as if tampered with, yet still locked from inside. Hastings, he said, the locked room is a puzzle, but not insoluble. The murderer entered, killed, and left without breaking the seals. Or so it appears. A surprising find came in Hastings' own room, tucked into his suitcase. A bloody handkerchief, its crimson stains fresh. Hastings blanched. Poirot! That's not mine. Someone's planted it, trying to frame me. Poirot nodded gravely. A clumsy attempt, mon ami. The true killer grows nervous. As noon approached, Poirot gathered the guests in the drawing-room to report progress, or lack thereof. The fire had died to embers, and the sea's restless rhythm seemed to mock their unease. Mes amis, Poirot began, the clues are many. A glove, a ledger, a diary, a vial, a key, a locket, a handkerchief. Yet some are false, designed to mislead. The footprint in the study, too small for a man perhaps. The threatening letters, written by whom? And the revolver, why the wrong hand? Lady Evelyn clutched her veil. You can't think I'd use my own glove. I lost it days ago. Lang's voice was sharp. Those ledgers prove Reginald's guilt, not mine. Amelia's eyes flashed. My diary's private. I'm no murderer. Voss remained stoic. The cyanide is medical, nothing more. Reed and Clara exchanged glances, their silence heavy. Inspector Graves, hovering nearby, scratched his head. "Mr. Poirot, you're stirring up a hornet's nest. All these clues, but no one's cracked the locked room yet." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Patience, Inspector. The little grey cells are weaving the threads together." Outside, a gull's cry pierced the air, and the cliffs loomed like silent judges. Poirot stepped onto the Mirador Terrace, gazing at the sea, his mind racing. The clues were a tapestry of truth and deception, each suspect's story interwoven with motive and opportunity. The glove suggested Lady Evelyn's involvement, yet its discovery was too convenient. Lang's ledgers screamed betrayal, but his openness disarmed suspicion. Amelia's diary hinted at desperation, Voss's vial at premeditation, Reed's key at access, Clara's locket at passion. And the handkerchief in Hastings's room, a blatant misdirection. "Hastings," Poirot said, turning to his friend, "the murderer is cunning, planting seeds of doubt. But one clue, perhaps the footprint, perhaps the loose hinge, will betray them." Hastings sighed. "It's a devil of a case, Poirot. Everyone's got a reason to want Sir Reginald dead." "Oui," Poirot replied, his eyes gleaming, "but only one had the method." As the afternoon shadows lengthened, the estate seemed to close in, its secrets pressing against the walls. The investigation was far from over, and the truth remained elusive, hidden among the thorns of deception. Chapter 6. Complications and Twists. As evening descended over Mirador Terrace, a tempest roared in from the English Channel, its winds battering the villa's white stone walls and rattling the glass panes of the Mirador Terrace above. The storm seemed to mirror the turmoil within the estate, where Sir Reginald Harrington's murder in the locked study had cast a pall of suspicion over every guest. The skies darkened, clouds churning like the secrets that swirled among the inhabitants, and the cliffs below echoed with the relentless crash of waves. Hercule Poirot, his impeccable suit undeterred by the damp air, stood in the grand drawing-room, his sharp eyes scanning the assembled group. The fire in the hearth sputtered, under the draught casting flickering shadows on the faces of the suspects, each one taut with fear or defiance. "Mes amis," Poirot declared, his voice cutting through the howling wind, "the murderer is among us. The clues, the glove, the ledger, the key, point to a mind most cunning. But the little grey cells, they see through the fog of deception. Let us confront the truth." Captain Hastings, standing by the fireplace, clutched his notebook, his face pale. "Poirot, it's a devil of a case. Everyone's got a motive. And that locked room, how did they do it?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Patience, Hastings. The puzzle begins to take shape." The guests, forbidden to leave the estate by Inspector Graves's orders, sat in a tense semicircle on plush armchairs and sofas. Lady Evelyn Harrington, her black veil now discarded, gripped Victor Lang's hand, her knuckles white. Amelia Harrington perched on the edge of her seat, her bobbed hair dishevelled, her eyes flashing with nervous energy. Dr. Elena Voss maintained her stern composure, her fingers tracing the rim of a teacup. Thomas Reed, the gardener, slouched against the wall, his rough hands clenched, while Clara Benson, the housemaid, hovered near the door, her youthful face etched with worry. Jenkins, the butler, stood silently by the sideboard, his gaunt features impassive, but his eyes watchful. Poirot began with a revelation that sent a ripple through the room. "Madame Evelyn," he said, turning to Lady Harrington, "you and Monsieur Lang, you share more than friendship, non?" Gasps broke the silence. Lady Evelyn's face flushed, but she lifted her chin defiantly. Yes, Victor and we've grown close. Reginald's neglect drove me to it, but it's no motive for murder. I stood to lose everything in a divorce." Lang nodded, his sharp features tight. "It's true, Poirot. We were discreet, but I'd never kill for it. Reginald was my partner, not my rival." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Yet love, it complicates the heart, does it not?" Next, he turned to Amelia. "Mademoiselle Harrington, you are not merely Sir Reginald's niece. A letter in his desk, hidden among the threats, reveals you are his illegitimate daughter, kept secret to protect the family name. Your inheritance, it was in jeopardy, was it not?" Amelia's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "How did you—" "Yes, he told me last month. Said he'd rewrite the will to favour Evelyn. I was furious, but I didn't kill him." The room buzzed with shock. Hastings scribbled furiously, muttering, "Good Lord, Poirot, that's a bombshell." Dr. Voss was next. Poirot's voice grew sharp. "Frau Voss, you have been blackmailing Sir Reginald, have you not? Documents in his safe, letters from the war, show he profited from your family's ruin, selling faulty munitions that cost your brother's life. You demanded reparations." Voss's face remained a mask, but her voice cracked slightly. "I confronted him, yes, he owed me. But I was on the terrace, as I said." Poirot paced, his hands clasped behind his back. "And you, Monsieur Reed, and Mademoiselle Clara, you are lovers, no? Planning to steal the diamond necklace to fund your escape from this life of service." Reed's face reddened, but Clara spoke first, tears streaming. "It's true, Thomas and we wanted a new start. Sir Reginald promised me freedom, but he lied. We planned to take the necklace, but we didn't shoot him." Reed nodded grimly. "I swear it, Poirot. We're thieves, maybe, but not murderers." The revelations piled like storm clouds, but the locked room remained the enigma. Poirot returned to the study, now dim under the storm's grey light. He examined the desk, finding a faint scratch. A string, perhaps, tied to the revolver's trigger. "Hastings," he mused, "a device to fire the shot remotely, perhaps." But the door was bolted, the windows latched. A new twist emerged. The gunshot, though loud, produced no visible smoke on the terrace above. Could it have been timed? A mechanism triggered earlier? Poirot tested the idea, but the string theory faltered. The bolt's mechanism required an internal lock, not an external pull. Then, a chilling complication. As Poirot sipped tea in the drawing room, he detected a bitter undertone. Cyanide, faint but unmistakable. He spat it out, his eyes blazing. "Mon Dieu! The killer strikes again to silence Poirot." The guests recoiled, panic rising. Inspector Graves, bumbling but alarmed, ordered the tea tray confiscated. "Blimey, Mr. Poirot! Someone's desperate!" Poirot's mind raced. The cyanide linked to Dr. Voss's vial, but her calm denial suggested another hand. He re-examined the alibis. All claimed the terrace, yet Dr. Voss's absence for a smoke was unverified. Lang's watch, stopped at the exact time of the shot, hinted at manipulation. Amelia's diary mentioned a suitor skilled with mechanics. Could he be involved? Reed and Clara's theft plot suggested access to tools, perhaps even the loose window hinge. A deeper search of the study revealed a hidden panel in the ceiling, accessible from the Mirador Terrace above, a vent just wide enough for a small device. Poirot climbed to the terrace, braving the storm's gusts, and found scuff marks on the glass dome's frame. "Hastings," he called. "Someone climbed here, perhaps to drop a mechanism, a timed shot, non." But the theory crumbled. The vent was too narrow for a revolver, and the angle still didn't align. The killer had anticipated Poirot's logic, planting false clues to muddy the waters. Back in the drawing room, Poirot confronted the group again. "The murderer is desperate," he said. resorting to poison to protect their secret. But the locked room, it is not magic, it is method. Lady Evelyn clutched Lang's arm, her voice trembling. Who would do this? We're trapped here. Amelia's defiance wavered. You're accusing us all, Poirot. I loved my father, even if he hid me. Voss's eyes narrowed. You waste time, monsieur. The truth is simpler than your theatrics. Reed and Clara remained silent, their hands entwined. Jenkins, ever present, offered fresh tea, inspected this time, his gaunt face unreadable. Poirot stepped to the window, the storm's fury reflecting his thoughts. The clues, glove, ledger, diary, vial, key, locket, handkerchief, were a maze of truth and deception. The cyanide attempt suggested panic, but whose? The footprint, too small for a man, pointed to a woman, or a clever disguise. The threatening letters, now numbering a dozen, suggested a campaign of fear, but their author remained elusive. Hastings, Poirot said softly, the killer plays a dangerous game, but they have made a mistake. The little grey cells, they see the pattern. Hastings shook his head. It's a tangle, Poirot. The locked room, the poison, how does it all fit? Poirot's smile was grim. It will, mon ami. The storm outside is fierce, but the storm within, it will break soon. Chapter 7. Deeper Suspicions. The storm that had battered Mirador Terrace through the night had softened to a steady drizzle by late afternoon, its grey veil cloaking the Devonshire cliffs in a mournful haze. The grand villa, with its white stone facade and terracotta terraces, seemed to hunker down against the elements, as if guarding the secrets within its walls. The murder of Sir Reginald Harrington in the locked study had transformed the opulent estate into a pressure cooker of suspicion, and Hercule Poirot, with his meticulous mind and impeccably waxed moustache, was relentless in his pursuit of the truth. The guests, still confined by Inspector Graves's orders, moved through the halls with the wariness of prey, their every glance laden with distrust. Poirot stood in the drawing-room, where the fire had been stoked to ward off the damp chill. The velvet drapes were drawn back, revealing the rain-streaked windows and the restless sea beyond. The suspects gathered reluctantly, their faces a gallery of emotions, fear, defiance, exhaustion. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat rigidly, her hands clasped tightly, no longer hiding her liaison with Victor Lang. Amelia Harrington paced near the fireplace, her bobbed hair swinging with agitation. Dr. Elena Voss maintained her stern composure, her eyes cold as the storm outside. Thomas Reed, the gardener, leaned against the wall, his rough hands fidgeting, while Clara Benson, the housemaid, hovered near the door, her youthful face pale with worry. Jenkins, the butler, stood by the sideboard, his gaunt features unreadable, but his presence ever watchful. Mes amis, Poirot began, his voice calm but commanding. The web of deception tightens. The attempt on my life, this cyanide in the tea, shows the murderer grows desperate. But the little grey cells, do not falter. We shall probe deeper. Captain Hastings, clutching his notebook, looked shaken. Poirot, that poison business, it's rattled everyone. But the locked room, the clues, we're no closer, are we? Poirot's eyes gleamed. No, Hastings, we are closer than you think. The truth hides in the shadows, but it cannot escape Hercule Poirot. He resumed his interrogations with renewed vigour, calling Dr. Voss forward first. Frau Voss, he said, his tone sharp, your alibi. You claim you were smoking alone on the terrace during the shot. Yet no one saw you leave the group. Why? Voss's lips tightened, her accent clipped. I stepped away briefly, to clear my head. The sea air helps me think. I returned before the shot. I swear it. Poirot tilted his head. And your vial of cyanide, Frau Voss? Conveniently found in your bag. A physician's tool, you say, but perhaps a murderer's? Her eyes flashed. I told you, it's medical. Accuse me if you must, but I was not in the study. Next, Poirot turned to Victor Lang, whose sharp features were drawn with fatigue. Monsieur Lang, your watch stopped at precisely the time of the shot, 9:47 p.m. Curious, no? A malfunction, or a deliberate act to confuse the timeline? Lang's hand went to his pocket, pulling out the watch, a silver timepiece, now ticking again. It stopped that night, yes, he admitted. I dropped it earlier, during dinner, must have damaged it. But I was with Evelyn, as she said. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. Yet you did not mention this stopped watch before. A small detail, but significant. Amelia Harrington was next, her defiance wavering under Poirot's scrutiny. Mademoiselle, he said, your diary speaks of a suitor, a man skilled with mechanics. And now we find the diamond necklace in your room, hidden in a jewellery box, stolen perhaps to fund your elopement. Amelia's face paled, but she stood her ground. I took it, yes, she confessed, her voice trembling. Uncle was going to cut me off. I needed money to leave, but I didn't kill him. I was with Captain Hastings. Hastings nodded vigorously. She was, Poirot. Never left my side. Poirot turned to Clara Benson, whose tears flowed freely. Mademoiselle Clara, you confessed to forging the suicide note. I can't go on, to protect Monsieur Reed. A noble act, perhaps, but it muddies the truth. Why such loyalty? Clara's voice broke. Thomas and I, we wanted to run away. Sir Reginald lied to me, promised things he never meant. I wrote the note to throw suspicion off Thomas, but I didn't shoot him. Reed stepped forward, his face grim. She's telling the truth, Poirot. I'm no killer, though I hated him for sacking me. Poirot paced, his hands clasped behind his back. The locked room, mes amis. It is the heart of this mystery. A door bolted from inside, windows latched, no secret passages, yet a murder was committed, and the killer vanished. He returned to the study, now dim under the drizzle's grey light. The footprint, small, feminine, nagged at him. He examined the revolver again, noting the powder residue on Sir Reginald's hand, but the angle wrong for a left-handed man. Hastings, he said, the suicide is impossible. The note, forged, the powder, perhaps applied post-mortem to deceive. A new clue emerged. A faint scratch on the desk's edge, as if a string had been tied and pulled. Poirot tested the bolt mechanism, finding it stiff but functional. A string, perhaps, to lock the door from outside. No, the gap beneath is too narrow. He questioned Jenkins again, the butler's gaunt face betraying nothing. Mr. Jenkins, you were in the pantry during the shot, yet you are always near, always watching. Did you see anyone near the study? Jenkins shook his head. No, sir. I was preparing the brandy tray, as I said. The corridor was empty when I emerged. Poirot's mind churned. The cyanide attempt pointed to Dr. Voss, but her calm denial suggested a frame. Lang's watch could be a planted distraction. Amelia's theft a motive, but not proof of murder. Clara's forged note protected Reed, but their theft plot didn't explain the locked room. And Jenkins, too perfect in his invisibility. A deeper suspicion formed. Poirot revisited the terrace, braving the drizzle to inspect the glass dome above the study. The scuff marks remained, but the vent was too small for a revolver. Yet a new detail caught his eye. A tiny shard of glass, wedged in the dome's frame, as if someone had tampered with a panel. Hastings, he murmured, a device, perhaps, dropped from above. But the angle, the timing, it does not yet fit. Back in the drawing room, Poirot confronted the group. "The murderer grows reckless," he said. "The cyanide, the false clues, they betray panic. But the locked room, it is a puzzle of logic, not magic." Lady Evelyn's voice trembled. "You're accusing us all, Poirot. When will this end?" Amelia's eyes flashed. "I'm no killer, but I won't be caged here forever." Voss remained stoic. "Your theatrics waste time, monsieur. The truth is simpler." Reed and Clara clung to each other, silent. Jenkins offered tea, his hands steady. Poirot stepped to the window, the rain streaking like tears. The clues, glove, ledger, diary, vial, key, locket, handkerchief, watch, note, glass shard, formed a mosaic of deception. The footprint suggested a woman, but could it be a man's shoe, deliberately small? The letters pointed to a campaign of fear, but whose? The cyanide attempt screamed desperation, but the locked room held the key. "Hastings," Poirot said softly, "the murderer has miscalculated. One clue, perhaps the glass, perhaps the watch, will undo them." Hastings sighed. "It's a maze, Poirot. Everyone's lying, or so it seems." "Oui," Poirot replied, his eyes gleaming. "But the little grey cells, they see the path." As the drizzle thickened, the estate felt like a trap, its secrets pressing closer. The truth was near, but the killer's desperation made the game deadly. Chapter 8. Unraveling Threads. The drizzle that had cloaked Mirador Terrace through the afternoon had eased, leaving a damp sheen on the villa's white stone walls and terracotta terraces. The English Channel below churned restlessly, its waves a constant murmur against the cliffs, as if whispering secrets to the grand estate above. The murder of Sir Reginald Harrington in the locked study had transformed the opulent retreat into a cauldron of suspicion. And Hercule Poirot, with his meticulous mind and impeccably waxed moustache, was closing in on the truth. The guests, still confined by Inspector Graves's orders, moved through the halls like shadows, their faces etched with fear and fatigue. Poirot stood on the Mirador Terrace, the glass dome above reflecting the faint glow of stars breaking through the clouds. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and wet earth, and the Belgian detective's sharp eyes scanned the horizon, his thoughts a whirlwind of clues and contradictions. Captain Hastings joined him, his notebook worn from constant use, his expression a mix of awe and frustration. "Poirot," he said, "this case is a tangle. The cyanide, the footprint, that glass shard. How do you make sense of it all?" Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "Hastings, mon ami, the puzzle is complex, but the little grey cells, they see the pattern. The murderer has woven a clever web, but one thread is loose, and it will unravel the whole." Their investigation had taken a new turn, driven by Poirot's relentless pursuit of the locked room mystery. He led Hastings to the cliffs below the study, where the rocky path wound perilously close to the edge. The rain had softened the earth, and Poirot's keen gaze spotted a faint rope mark etched into a jagged outcrop, barely visible against the stone. "Voila!" he murmured, pointing. "A rope, perhaps, used to access the study window, yet the latches were secure." Hastings frowned, peering over the cliff's edge. "Good Lord, Poirot, you think someone climbed up, in this weather?" Poirot shook his head. "No, Hastings. The rope is a clue, or a distraction. We must test every possibility." Back in the study, Poirot re-examined the scene with fresh eyes. The small footprint in the carpet, likely a woman's, remained a nagging puzzle. The revolver Sir Reginald's own bore only his fingerprints and powder residue, but the angle, wrong for a left-handed man, confirmed murder. The forged note, "I can't go on," lay crumpled on the desk, its ink smudged as if written in haste. A new discovery caught Poirot's attention. A faint smudge of wax on the desk's edge, as if a candle had dripped there recently. Curious, he mused. No candles were lit that night. He tested the window hinge again, the one slightly loose. A closer inspection revealed a tiny nick in the frame, as if a tool had pried at it, but the latch held firm. "Hastings," Poirot said, "the killer wishes us to focus on the window, but the answer lies elsewhere." Their search extended to the guest quarters, where a surprising find emerged in Amelia Harrington's room. A letter from Sir Reginald, hidden in a hatbox, disowning her as his illegitimate daughter. "You are no Harrington," it read, "and will inherit nothing." Amelia, confronted, burst into tears. "He wrote it in anger," she sobbed. "I begged him to reconsider, but I didn't kill him." Poirot's eyes softened, but his voice was firm. "Mademoiselle, this letter, it is a motive, or a red herring planted to accuse you." In Clara Benson's room, Poirot re-examined the locket with Sir Reginald's photo. A closer look revealed a single fingerprint on the clasp, not Clara's, but Victor Lang's. When questioned, Clara gasped, "I never showed it to Mr. Lang. He must have handled it when I wasn't looking." Lang, summoned, turned pale. I found it in the drawing room, dropped on the floor. I returned it to her room, nothing more." Poirot's eyebrow arched. "Yet you did not mention this, Monsieur Lang. A small act, but significant." A twist came from Dr. Elena Voss, who volunteered a medical report from Sir Reginald's files found in the study's safe. It detailed a heart condition severe enough to suggest natural death was possible, but the bullet wound, confirmed by autopsy, ruled it out. "I thought it relevant," Voss said coolly. "His health was failing, but someone ensured he didn't die naturally." Poirot nodded thoughtfully. "Frau Voss, your candour is noted, but your cyanide vial still unexplained." The gardener, Thomas Reed, was questioned again about the duplicate study key. He admitted crafting it years ago, when Sir Reginald misplaced the original, but swore it hadn't been used. "Check it, Poirot," he growled. "It's rusted, useless now." Poirot examined the key, finding faint rust, but also a trace of oil, as if recently cleaned. "A contradiction, Monsieur Reed," he said. "You, or someone, prepared this key." A startling revelation came from Inspector Graves, who had been combing the study's papers. He produced a hidden ledger, separate from Lang's, showing Sir Reginald's plans to sell the shipping company, cutting Lang out entirely. "This changes things," Graves said. "Lang had reason to kill before the deal went through." Lang's face reddened. "That's a lie. Reginald never told me. I'd have fought it legally." Poirot paced, his mind racing. The rope mark suggested an external approach, but the locked room defied it. The wax smudge hinted at a staged scene, perhaps to mislead. The letter disowning Amelia was too convenient, possibly, issue implanted. Lang's fingerprint on Clara's locket suggested tampering, and Voss's medical report muddied the motive. Reed's key, oiled despite rust, pointed to premeditation. In the drawing room, Poirot gathered the suspects again, the fire now a low glow, the rain a soft patter outside. "Mes amis," he said, "the clues multiply, but so do the lies. The rope, the wax, the letter, the fingerprint, each tells a story, but which is true?" Lady Evelyn clutched Lang's arm. "You're torturing us, Poirot. I lost my glove, not my husband's life." Amelia's voice was sharp. "That letter, it's not proof I loved him, even if he shunned me." Voss remained stoic. "The heart condition was no secret. Someone else used it to confuse." Clara and Reed stood close, their silence heavy. Jenkins, serving tea, watched impassively. Poirot stepped to the Mirador Terrace, the stars now clear above. He re-examined the glass dome, finding the shard from earlier, but also a faint scratch on a panel, as if opened briefly. "Hastings," he said, "the terrace holds the key, perhaps. Not a device dropped, but a vantage point." Hastings frowned. "You mean someone shot from above? But the vent's too small." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Not shot, mon ami. Manipulated. The little grey cells. They begin to see." The clues, glove, ledger, diary, vial, key, locket, handkerchief, watch, note, rope, wax, letter, fingerprint, glass, formed a labyrinth. The cyanide attempt suggested desperation. The footprint a woman or a disguise, the letters a campaign of fear. But the locked room remained the enigma, its solution tantalizingly close. "Hastings," Poirot said softly, "the murderer has overplayed their hand. One clue, the wax perhaps or the fingerprint, will betray them." Hastings sighed. "It's a devilish puzzle, Poirot. Everyone's got a secret." "Oui," Poirot replied, his smile grim, "but only one has the guilt." As night deepened, the estate seemed to pulse with secrets, the truth lurking just out of reach. Chapter 9. The Final Twists. The storm that had ravaged Mirador Terrace had finally relented, leaving the night sky washed clean and studded with stars that glittered like the ill-fated diamond necklace at the heart of so many secrets. The grand villa, perched on the Devonshire cliffs, stood bathed in moonlight, its white stone walls glowing ethereally. The terracotta terraces cascading toward the now calm English Channel below. The Mirador Terrace, that glass-enclosed balcony floating above the abyss, was the chosen stage for the denouement. Hercule Poirot had summoned all to this panoramic perch, where the sea's rhythmic whisper seemed to underscore the tension thickening the air. The glass dome arched overhead, reflecting the assembled faces in fractured shards. Faces etched with exhaustion, fear, and the faint glimmer of hope that the nightmare might end. Poirot stood at the centre, his diminutive Shah, figure commanding despite his height, his immaculate suit and waxed moustache, a beacon of order amid chaos. The little grey cells had been whirring ceaselessly, sifting through the labyrinth of clues. The glove, the ledgers, the diary, the vial, the key, the locket, the handkerchief, the watch, the note, the rope mark, the wax smudge, the disowning letter, the fingerprint, the glass shard, each a thread in a tapestry of deception. And now, under the starlit dome, he would pull them taut. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice resonant yet measured, carrying over the faint breeze. "The hour of truth arrives. The impossible crime, the locked study, the bolted door, the latched windows has tormented us. But Hercule Poirot does not yield to impossibility. The murderer is here, among us, and the final twists, they reveal all." Captain Hastings, positioned near Poirot, gripped his notebook tightly, his face a mask of anticipation. "Poirot, you've got it, haven't you?" "The method, the killer—" Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, Hastings. We expose the lies first, one by one." The suspects formed a semicircle under the glass dome, the moonlight casting long shadows across the stone floor. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat with Victor Lang, her hand trembling in his, the diamond necklace now absent from her throat, confiscated as evidence of theft. Amelia Harrington stood defiantly, her bobbed hair tousled by the wind, her eyes darting suspiciously. Dr. Elena Voss leaned against a balustrade, her stern face impassive, arms crossed like a barrier. Thomas Reed and Clara Benson stood close, their lovers' bond evident in their intertwined fingers, faces pale with dread. Jenkins, the butler, lingered at the edge, his gaunt form a silent observer, tray of untouched brandy glasses in hand. Inspector Graves hovered nearby, his portly frame ill at ease in the dramatic setting. Poirot began with Lang. "Monsieur Lang, the ledgers in your room, those showing Sir Reginald's embezzlement, they are forgeries, no? Your annotations, your hand, you crafted them to frame your partner, to justify your anger, perhaps to inherit the business unencumbered." Lang bolted upright, his sharp features contorting. "That's absurd! I discovered the discrepancies. Reginald was the thief. Those notes were my proof." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Yet the ink, monsieur, it matches your pen found in your valise, and the hidden ledger from the safe, showing the sale of the company without you. It conveniently appeared after your discovery. You forged both, to cast doubt." The group murmured, Lady Evelyn pulling away slightly. "Victor, is this true?" Lang stammered. "Evelyn, no, I'd never—" Poirot moved seamlessly to Lady Evelyn. "Madame, your glove, stained with gun oil, found in the garden, planted perhaps. But by whom? And your affair with Monsieur Lang, it provided cover for whispered plans, did it not?" She gasped, tears welling. "We loved each other, yes, but murder never. The glove, I lost it days ago." Amelia interjected sharply. "It was me. I planted the glove to shift blame from myself. Uncle's letter disowning me, it broke me, but I didn't kill him." Poirot nodded. "Oui, Mademoiselle Amelia. The letter in your hat box, your handwriting mimics Sir Reginald's, forged to elicit sympathy or distract. And the diamond necklace in your room, you stole it to fund your escape, but the theft was opportunistic, not murderous." Amelia's defiance crumbled, sobs escaping. "I needed freedom, but the shot, I was with Hastings." Dr. Voss's cold voice cut in. "Childish games. My vial of cyanide, medical, as I said. The heart report, I provided it honestly." Poirot turned to her. "Frau Voss, your grudge is deep. Sir Reginald's dealings ruined your family, caused your brother's death. But the cyanide in my tea, it bears your touch, no? And your alibi, stepping away for a smoke, no witness." Voss's composure cracked slightly. "I despised him, yes, but I did not poison you or shoot him." Reed grunted. "The key in my shed, oiled recently, you said. Clara and I planned theft. Aye, but the study, we had no access that night." Clara nodded tearfully. "I forged the note to protect Thomas, but the gun, I never touched it." Poirot paced under the dome, his gaze lifting to the glass roof. "The locked room, it mocks us. Door bolted inside, windows latched, but observe, the Mirador above the study, its glass dome with a hidden panel, a vent directly over the desk, the scuff marks, the glass shard, they tell of climbing, of agility." The group followed his gaze, murmurs rising. Hastings exclaimed, "Poirot! Someone climbed the dome, dropped a device through the vent, a timed shot." Poirot's voice rose dramatically. "Precisely, Hastings. A long pole, perhaps, or a mechanical contrivance to pull the trigger from above. The room remains locked, the killer safe on the terrace. And who possesses such agility from years as a war nurse scaling ruins? Frau Elena Voss." Voss stiffened, her face paling under the moonlight. "You accuse me?" "Yes, I hated him. His greed killed my brother in a shady deal, supplying faulty arms. I sent the threats to frighten him. I even considered poison. But murder? No." The room erupted. Graves stepped forward. "Dr. Voss, you're under arrest." But Poirot raised a hand. "Wait, Inspector. Observe the vent. It is narrow. The trajectory from above would graze the ceiling, not strike the temple cleanly. And the powder on Sir Reginald's hand, applied after perhaps. No, this is another twist, a red herring to mislead." Voss exhaled, relief mixing with confusion. "Then who?" Poirot's eyes scanned the group, lingering on Lang. "The method is simpler, more ingenious, but first, the motives align falsely. Lady Evelyn's affair, cover for Lang's, embezzlement, Amelia's theft, desperate but timed after the murder, Voss's grudge, real, but her confession partial, to deflect, Reed and Clara's plot, petty theft, the forged note a shield. Jenkins cleared his throat subtly, but Poirot continued. The footprint small, but a man's shoe narrowed. The string scratch on the desk, not from above, but the keyhole. A thin string through the keyhole, tied to the bolt, pulled to lock after exit, then retrieved under the door gap. Hastings gasped. Poirot! That's brilliant! The door locks from outside, illusion of inside bolt. Poirot nodded. But the killer, the final twist approaches. The wax smudge, a candle to see in the dark. The fingerprint on the locket, Lang's, planting doubt on Clara. The stopped watch, smashed to fake the time. Lang shifted uncomfortably. This is madness, Poirot's voice thundered. Non, Monsieur Lang. You discovered Sir Reginald's plan to sell the company, cutting you out. You confronted him in the study after he locked us out briefly. You shot him, staged suicide with glove. Wait, no, the glove was Amelia's plant. You wiped the gun, applied powder, forged the note poorly. Then the string through the keyhole. Your mechanical mind from shipping innovations. Lang lunged toward the balustrade, but Graves seized him. It's over, Lang. Yet Poirot halted. No, wait, the string. It requires the key removed. Sir Reginald had the key. A duplicate, Reed's key, oiled by you, Lang, to frame him. Lang struggled. Lies! I was with Evelyn. Evelyn wept. Victor, did you? A final twist. Voss laughed bitterly. Fools! I staged the cyanide, to frame Lang, force confession, but he is the killer. Chaos ensued, accusations flying. Poirot calmed them. The revelation, it comes but one piece missing. The little grey cells demand perfection. The Mirador fell silent, stars witnessing the unraveling. The truth hovered, tantalizingly close, the killer's desperation exposed in the web of twists. Chapter 10. The truth revealed. The Mirador Terrace at Mirador Terrace gleamed under the full moon. Its glass dome, a crystalline crown above the Devonshire cliffs. The English Channel below lay tranquil, its waves a soft caress against the rocks. A stark contrast to the storm of secrets that had raged within the villa. The air was crisp, carrying the faint salt of the sea and the weight of anticipation. Hercule Poirot had summoned the guests once more to this lofty stage, where the starlight seemed to illuminate not just the night, but the hidden corners of their hearts. The murder of Sir Reginald Harrington in the locked study, an impossible crime with a bolted door and latched windows, had held them captive in suspicion for 2 days, and now, under the glittering dome, the denouement had arrived. Poirot stood at the centre, his diminutive frame radiating authority, his immaculate suit pristine, his waxed moustache a symbol of his unyielding precision. His sharp eyes swept over the assembled suspects, each face a canvas of dread, defiance, or desperation. The little grey cells had sifted through the maze of clues. Glove, ledgers, diary, vial, key, locket, handkerchief, watch, note, rope mark, wax smudge, disowning letter. Fingerprint, glass shard, and now they had woven the truth. Mes amis, Poirot began, his voice resonant, carrying over the sea's whisper. The impossible is no longer so. The murder of Sir Reginald Harrington was a crime of cunning, staged to deceive. But Hercule Poirot sees through the deception. The killer stands among us, and the truth, it is revealed tonight. Captain Hastings, standing by Poirot's side, clutched his notebook, his eyes wide with anticipation. Poirot, you've cracked it, haven't you? The locked room, the killer, it all fits. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "We, Hastings, the little grey cells have triumphed." The suspects formed a tense semicircle under the glass dome, moonlight casting their shadows like spectres. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat with Victor Lang, her hands trembling, her eyes red from tears. Amelia Harrington stood rigid, her bobbed hair catching the light, her defiance tempered by fear. Dr. Elena Voss leaned against the balustrade, her stern face a mask of guarded composure. Thomas Reed and Clara Benson clung to each other, their faces pale, their theft plot exposed but their guilt uncertain. Jenkins, the butler, stood at the edge, his gaunt frame almost invisible, his eyes watchful behind a tray of untouched glasses. Inspector Graves, his portly figure awkward in the ethereal setting, adjusted his cap ready to act. Poirot began, his voice steady but piercing. "Let us unravel the threads. The clues, many were false, planted to mislead. The glove stained with gun oil was Mademoiselle Amelia's attempt to shift blame from herself. The ledgers forged by Monsieur Lang to frame Sir Reginald for embezzlement. The diary, revealing Amelia's secret parentage and theft of the necklace, desperate but not murderous. The cyanide vial, Frau Voss's tool, used to stage an attempt on my life to deflect suspicion. The key, oiled by Monsieur Reed for theft, not murder. The locket, touched by Lang to implicate Clara. The handkerchief in Hastings's room, a crude frame. The group shifted uneasily, murmurs rippling. Lady Evelyn whispered, "Then who?" Poirot raised a hand. "The locked room. It is the heart of this mystery. A door bolted from inside, windows latched, no secret passages. The footprint, small but a man's shoe, narrowed. The wax smudge, from a candle used in the dark. The string scratch, not from a vent above, but the keyhole below." Hastings gasped. "The string, Poirot! You said it, pulled through the keyhole to lock the bolt?" "Oui," Poirot nodded, "but the final piece, the method and the motive, they point to one alone." He turned to Jenkins the butler, whose gaunt face remained impassive. "Monsieur Jenkins, you are the invisible man, always present, always unseen. You claim to be in the pantry during the shot, yet no one saw you there. You, who knew the study's layout, the key's location, the bolt's mechanism." Jenkins stiffened, his tray clattering slightly. "Sir, I'm a servant, nothing more." Poirot's eyes blazed. "Non, monsieur. You are the brother of a man betrayed. Sir Reginald's wartime partner, cheated in a deal that left him destitute, dead by his own hand. The threatening letters, your jagged scrawl, sent to torment. You oiled Reed's duplicate key, stolen from his shed. You entered the study after Sir Reginald locked it, during his brief absence to fetch brandy. You shot him with his own revolver, wiped it, applied powder to his hand to mimic suicide. The note, your forgery, scrawled in haste. Then the string through the keyhole, pulled to lock the bolt, retrieved under the door." The group erupted in gasps. Graves stepped forward. "Jenkins, the butler." Poirot continued, relentless. "The wax smudge, your candle, used to see in the dark as you staged the scene. The footprint, your shoe, deliberately small to mislead. The glass shard on the dome, a distraction planted to suggest a terrace attack. And the cyanide in my tea, your desperate act to silence me, using Voss's vial to frame her." Jenkins' composure cracked, his face twisting. "You've no proof!" Poirot produced a folded paper from his pocket. A final threatening letter, found in Jenkins' quarters, its ink matching the note. "This, monsieur, betrays you. And the oil on your hands detected by my chemist friend in London, gun oil, not kitchen grease." Jenkins lunged for the balustrade, but Graves and Reed seized him. "You devil!" Jenkins spat. Reginald ruined my brother, left him to die. I served him for years, waiting, planning. He deserved it." Lady Evelyn sobbed. Amelia gasped. Voss's eyes widened. Lang, shaken, muttered, "I thought it was me they'd blame." Poirot's voice softened. "Monsieur Jenkins, your pain is real, but your justice is flawed. The law will judge you now." Graves handcuffed Jenkins, who slumped, defeated. "Blimey, Poirot," Graves said. "You've done it. A butler, of all things." Clara wept, clinging to Reed. "We're free, Thomas. No more running." Amelia approached Poirot, voice trembling. "Thank you. I can start anew." Voss nodded stiffly. "You're a formidable man, monsieur." Lang and Lady Evelyn sat in silence, their affair now a footnote to the tragedy. Poirot stepped to the balustrade, gazing at the sea under the stars. "Hastings," he said softly, "the little grey cells, they see what the heart hides. Justice is served, but the cost is heavy." Hastings sighed. "A devil of a case, Poirot. That string trick, ingenious." "Oui," Poirot replied, his eyes distant. "But the human heart, it is the true puzzle." As the group dispersed, the Mirador Terrace fell silent, the stars bearing witness to the end of the mystery. The villa, once a stage for deceit, stood serene, its secrets laid bare under the moonlight.